Good morning. My name is Paris Mays, and I am an undergrad student at Texas A&M Commerce, and welcome to the Honeycomb Hypothesis. We're so happy that you have joined us on this beautiful Saturday morning. A few things that I want to go over right now. Let's keep our cameras and our microphones off just to make sure that all of our attention is on Dr. Duncan today. Another thing, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the chat. We'll have door prizes throughout the day today, so make sure that you're listening for your chance to win a door prize. And then stick around for the end. We're going to have a post-lecture survey that you can fill out, and once that's filled out, you will get a link to a certificate for today. But now I'm going to pass it on to my friend Monica.
There we go. Hi, my name is Monica Path, and I wanted to welcome you all today to the Honeycomb Hypothesis. I'm going to be doing a little bit of translation in Spanish for what my friend Paris said a little bit ago. Bienvenidos todos a la hipótesis y la lección del día de hoy. Para comenzar, vamos a pedirles que por favor nos ayuden con mantener sus cámaras apagadas, también sus micrófonos apagados, por favor. Estén muy atentos, vamos a tener muchos premios a lo largo de la lección. Y al final de la lección vamos a pedirles que por favor se mantengan con nosotros. Vamos a enviarles un enlace para que puedan completar una encuesta. Y al final de la encuesta vamos a darles también un enlace para que puedan descargar su diploma de participación. I'm going to give the time back to the rest of our team and welcome everyone.
I am Dr. Josh Thompson, Texas A&M University Commerce. And we are honored to have all of y'all join us today for this celebration of environments by our guest speaker today. We have been honored to include some door prizes throughout the day. So our first door prize is a $25 gift certificate to The Book Vine for Children, sponsored by Isabel Baker, a frequent writer about children's books at young children and other spaces. And our first door prize goes to a registrant named Jennifer Araujo, a student from Texas Women's University. Now it's Dr. Zlata Stankovic-Ramirez's turn.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dr. Zlata Stankovic-Ramirez, and I'm an instructor at Texas Women's University, Grayson College, and Texas A&M Commerce. I have the honor and pleasure of introducing you to our guest of honor, Sandra Duncan. Dr. Sandra Duncan is a well internationally known author of 6 books. In addition, she has published numerous articles. She is the guru of environments. I have watched her and had the privilege to see her flip classrooms, and it is truly magical. Think fixer-upper, but for classrooms. It is phenomenal to watch her work and watch what she can do with a space. So you guys are in for an incredible treat. We are going to learn so much together today, along with Dr. Sandra Duncan. She's someone who has personally absolutely touched my career, and I'm studying physical classroom environments because of her book, Inspiring Spaces for Young Children. So it is my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sandra Duncan. Take it away, Dr. Duncan.
Well, thank you very, very much, Dr. Josh Thompson and Texas A&M Commerce for inviting me to be with you today. A team of students and faculty have worked exceptionally hard to make this event happen, including Paris Mays, Monica Plath, Dr. Zlata, Dr. Tony Sturdivant, and of course, Dr. Josh Thompson. I'm especially excited to share with you some ideas that have been percolating for the last 2 years on thinking about children's acquisition of knowledge and how we can facilitate their understandings. Before we begin, though, I would like to also give my appreciation to Andrew Williams from GuideCraft, who so generously allowed me to use this precious video of his son that you'll see later, as well as Chris Burkholder, CEO of Kids Country Day School in Ohio, and members of her staff, including Kelsey Shackelford and Christopher Sickles. Chris, Kelly, and Christopher have added so much to this presentation, as you're going to see near the end of it. Especially for Christine Burkholder, I'm in deep gratitude for her friendship, her inspiration, and her belly laughs that she gives me every single day. Creating the honeycomb hypothesis has been an exciting personal journey for me. And working with Sue Penix, infant toddler specialist, and Sally Hoy, founder of Fairy Does Teaching, you may know her, have been extremely rewarding. In a few minutes, you're going to see that we've pushed the traditional boundaries in thinking about how young children acquire understandings about the world around them. This was not done on the pretense of being unique or offering something completely different to the early childhood field. Rather, Sally, Sue, and I pushed the boundaries of traditional thinking about how children learn because children both need and deserve more. And so do the educators who work with them. The honeycomb hypothesis offers a new perspective, a new way of looking at things, a new way of approaching how children learn. It uses the analogy of a honeybee to help us understand how children learn. The honeycomb was specifically designed for children who are under 3. However, the basic concepts can be applied to older children. The honeycomb hypothesis is grounded on how this age group plays, moves about the environment, and interacts within a given space. In a few moments, you're going to see the honeycomb hypothesis was founded on well-respected theory of Piaget's cognitive development. So, how do children move? This is my granddaughter when she was 2 years old. My son-in-law, Tim, who was in charge of her one Sunday afternoon, said he turned his back for just a few seconds and the chaos that you see on the screen ensued. Sierra managed to do this in a blink of an eye. Cupboard doors open, drawers open, stuff strewn all over the floor. He captured this moment on his cell phone. Just take a look closely at her face, that cherub face. The look tells it all. What? What's the problem, Dad? The look is almost like, this is what I was born to do. This is what I need to do. And this is what I must do. Why? Because I'm a 2-year-old, and this is what 2-year-olds do. They buzz about their world, interacting with their environment, and they buzz around all the time in constant movement. Movement is what we ones are all about. Constant, continuous, fast, just like honeybees buzzing from flower to flower, constantly searching for the best pollen to bring back to the honeycomb. Take a look at this chart. It represents children's movement at different ages for a time span of 7 minutes. In the top left is a crude layout. You can see my cursor here probably. It's a layout of a classroom with various pieces of equipment or apparatus. There are 8 general areas in this classroom. Now look at the bottom right, and you'll see how a 4-year-old interacts with this particular environment for a 7-minute time span. This age child, the 4-year-old, is pretty stationary, as well as you look to the left, the 3-year-old child. As you continue looking at the chart, though, it becomes obvious that the younger the child, the more movement about the classroom. And with the youngest child, there is more non-specific and random movement in the classroom, with much time being spent wandering or flying about the room and not necessarily staying for any length of time with any apparatus or interacting with it. Although more of the classroom square footage is used by the younger child, it doesn't appear to be used with any intentionality or for only a brief moment. Understanding wee ones' movements and their behaviors, which are sporadic, covering a large amount of territory, bursts of energies, and short attention span, you know what I mean, 2-year-old teachers, is a factor educators need to take into account when working with and designing environments for wee ones. So, you're probably wondering, what is the connection between Sierra and her chaos in the kitchen and the honeycomb hypothesis? Actually, there might be some very interesting connections. So here's the story. About 2 years ago, along with co-authors Sue Penix and Sally Hoy, I began writing what was commissioned to be a sequel to the book Bringing the Outside In, Ideas for Creating Nature-Based Experiences for Young Children. It's published by Exchange Press. It was written for preschool teachers. The newly commissioned book was to follow the same 4 editorial sections that was in the original book. The 4 sections were exploring, creating, thinking, and sprouting. But the age group for the new book would be written for teachers of infants, toddlers, and 2-year-olds. As the primary author of this book, my job was to pull together the editorial content for all 3 authors, Sally and Sue and myself. While typing away one day, I stopped in mid-sentence and thought, boy, this does not feel right. Everything I write about seems shallow, it seems brittle, and it seems without significance. Getting on the phone with the other authors, we started jabbering away. I told them about a recent visit to 2-year-old classrooms. When I walked into the first classroom, there were no toys on the shelves. The shelves were pretty much empty. I asked the teacher, where are the toys? She pointed to a tall cabinet, and I saw baskets and baskets of toys on top of the cabinet. Then I went into another 2-year-old classroom, and the teacher almost literally lunged at me. And she said, this is not working at all. You see, a few days before I was in that classroom and I suggested that the teacher put out some natural objects for children to explore. I looked around the classroom and sure enough, what she had done indeed was not working. She had found 6 baskets, filled them to the brim with what the field calls loose parts, and I saw pine cones of all sizes and shapes and varieties, seashells and tree pods, and they were strewn across every inch of the classroom floor. I followed her as she walked around the classroom, mumbling to herself and putting all the loose parts back in the baskets. When she had finally picked up everything and put the baskets back on the shelf, she said, I don't know why I'm doing this at all. It is such a waste of time because one swipe of a 2-year-old's hands and they will be back on the floor. I told this story to the 2 authors, Sue and Sally, on the other end of the phone. And I said, I know what the problem is. I know what this teacher's problem is. She just put too many things out on the shelf. One of the authors, Sally Hoy, Fairy Dust Teaching, said, no, Sandra, although it might be true that there is too much stuff out on the shelves, the real problem is teachers don't understand why the children are sweeping and swiping and dumping the toys on the floor. The teacher did not understand or realize that these behaviors are innate urges. The teacher did not understand the importance of these behaviors, and therefore she was annoyed and frustrated because she felt more like a janitor than an educator. Wow. With those few sentences from Sally, a new idea emerged. A new book was born with those sentences. The honeycomb hypothesis began to percolate, and I actually thought I heard buzzing and bees buzzing about. Although the honeycomb hypothesis is based on several well-respected learning theories, including Bronfenbrenner, Vygotsky, and Dewey, the authors look towards two theories: Piaget's theory of cognitive development and Edward Wilson's theory of biophilia. Wilson's theory of biophilia believes that humans have this natural affinity and inherent attraction to living organisms in natural environments. The honeycomb hypothesis picked up on this theory of biophilia and believe that children need interactions with natural environment and with natural objects. In addition to Wilson's theory of biophilia, the honeycomb hypothesis is founded on Piaget's theory of cognitive development. As you may know, Piaget was a Swiss psychologist whose research and written words have acclaimed him as the most influential and important figure in 20th century developmental psychology. Through observations, questioning, and ingenious hands-on activities with his own children and others, Piaget's theory of cognitive development was first published in 1936 and today is still used in the fields of education. As you can see by this interview, Piaget's theory covered ages birth to adulthood. However, Piaget is best known for his work with younger children. We are going to talk mostly about stage 1, sensorial motor, which is birth to 18 to 24 months, and the goal is object permanence, as we talk about the honeycomb theory. Piaget's research put forth several basic principles about how children learn best. First, Piaget believed that children are innately motivated to learn. Anyone who works with and cares for young children will agree that they are interested in everything and anything, and they have a keen interest in the world about them. Second, Piaget believes that children learn best through hands-on experiences with multidimensional and concrete or real authentic objects. Third, Piaget also believed that children learn best through child-led play. For children to learn most effectively, the adult, the teacher, must get out of the way. According to Piaget, the development of intelligence happens most effectively when the child learns by himself what none can teach him and what he must discover alone. Piaget separated children's experiences with the environment into two separate processes, which he called unguided experiences and guided transmission of knowledge. Oh, I'm sorry, I had something more to say about that. Unguided transmission of knowledge, unguided experiences is the traditional approach to education where the teacher knows all the things and the child is but an empty vessel filled up with information that the adult thinks that the child should know. In guided transmission, the teacher is at the front of the room and not the child. The teacher is the focal point of the interaction. Piaget was not in favor of guided transmission of knowledge. Rather, Piaget believed in unguided transmission of knowledge, or constructivism, which means that children construct their own knowledge by active engagement with the environment, especially with authentic materials. It has been said that one of his favorite phrases was construction rather than instruction. Piaget believed in the importance of unguided experiences where the child manipulates, observes, listens, smells, tastes objects to see what occurs when he or she acts upon them. all this action, all this unguided stuff requires that movement. Movement is play in action. All the movement you saw on that graph, all the movement of Sierra in the kitchen, all that movement is children exhibiting observable behaviors. These are behaviors of what teachers observe and deal with on a daily basis, a moment by moment basis. If you're a 2-year-old teacher or a toddler teacher, you know that these behaviors can sometimes be messy, destructive, annoying, and they include actions such as swiping all the toys down the shelf off the shelf, moving the toys from place to place with seemingly little idea of how to use them, dumping baskets and baskets onto hot, huge piles on the floor, hiding small toys or blocks in pockets where they eventually end up in the family's washing machine, walking on top of the tables in kitchen set, running around the room with a fire truck in one hand and a baby doll in the other with no apparent destination in mind. At the very core of this movement is play. Young children are compelled by natural instinct to play. It is through this play that babies, toddlers, and 2-year-old children learn about the world around them. There is something very interesting about how young children play. Observe closely, and you will notice children exhibiting repetitive movements or actions. For example, you may see an industrious toddler filling up a bucket, only immediately to dump its contents out and continue to repeat the process over and over again. You may observe a child stacking up some blocks and repeatedly knocking them down with a gleeful smile on her face. Or you may experience a small child dropping his sippy cup like Sierra over the edge of the high chair, and after you've retrieved it for the umpteenth time, smiles and drops it again. Although these repetitive behaviors may seem inconsequential and oftentimes frustrating, children are actually building the capacities of their brains and constructing understandings. Children are constructing understandings through patterns of play. The problem is with the children's movement is most of the time, no matter what teachers say, no matter what they do, no matter if they put the toy baskets up on a tall shelf, children keep doing these patterns of play. They do them over and over again. Teachers turn into preschool police. They hope to keep the classroom noise down, the chaos down to a low roar. Tired of picking up and putting toys back on the shelf, teachers resort to hiding toys in closets or putting the manipulatives up on a tall shelf. To eliminate the mess, which inevitably occurs, teachers discourage, unfortunately, children from practicing these innate patterns of play, which ultimately negatively impact children's growth and development. The truth is, these innate and repetitive patterns are the way young children develop understandings about the world around them. The truth is, these patterns of play should not be quelled, should not be extinguished. The truth is, we should be celebrating and encouraging these patterns of play. Our classroom environments should be promoting rather than quashing these observable and repetitive, yet sometimes frustrating to us, behaviors, if we truly want children to be their possible best. Although there are many patterns of play, the Honeycomb hypothesis, the book, focuses on 6 repetitive movements of actions that actions teachers of infants and toddlers and 2-year-olds most likely observe on a daily basis. They are hiding and revealing, making and unmaking, carrying and placing, propelling and hindering, turning and stopping, attaching and detaching. How are these patterns of play exhibited in a classroom? Take a look at these 2 videos, and if you want to, jot down in the chat box what patterns of play you think these children are exhibiting. Here you go. Here's the second one. So if you wrote down attaching and detaching, that might have been a good choice for both of these videos. But with the little boy that's putting the frames on his head, it might be carrying and placing to some degree, even though he was placing the frame on his head. The point is identifying the correct must be ever-ending pattern of play. That isn't the important part in this. What is important is for educators to recognize these observable behaviors as pathways to understanding, even though they might be frustrating to you. They're pathways needed to construct schemas. The schemas are not observable. What is observable is the patterns of play. Let's look at this 3 short videos and think about those patterns of play and think about what these patterns of play these children are exhibiting. This is my favorite. If you thought it could be a pattern of play of hiding and revealing, because this pattern of play could be hiding and revealing not only objects, but children themselves. It could also be attaching and detaching, because they are attaching the scarves to themselves and then detaching the scarf. Yes, it could be all of those things, but it doesn't matter so much about what pattern of play is identified. What is important is that you recognize observable in behavior and understand that these repetitive behaviors occur. These repetitive behaviors occur because children are building understandings. So identifying a pattern of play isn't the important idea in this presentation. The important idea is that you observe these patterns of play in children's actions about the classroom. Okay, so we talked about those patterns of play and we talked about why it's unimportant about how you specifically identify a pattern of play. It's more important that you identify that these behaviors are happening in your classroom. One final idea when we created the honeycomb hypothesis was to use the incomparable wisdom of Tom Bedard in his axioms of sensory motor play. We considered these axioms. Although Tom has 9 axioms of play, the honeycomb hypothesis primarily focused on 4 axioms. The first axiom was need to transport stuff. We know that kids like to transport stuff. Compelled to put stuff in holes, and focus on finding different levels for stuff and using stuff in unique ways. It is not hard to see how his axioms of play align with the patterns of play. So let's put this all together. Let's watch the patterns of play and axioms of play in action. Remember that these are innate behaviors that children are compelled to move and play. And remember that patterns of play are observable actions. Let's watch Andrew Williams' son, Henry. Need to fill holes. Need to find different levels. Propelling. Listen to him. Need to find different levels, hiding and revealing. Oh, he says. Hiding and revealing. Here comes carrying and placing. Oops, not quite. Hiding and revealing again. So now that you've watched adorable Henry and you know about the patterns of play, you may be wondering, what's the connection between patterns of play, honeybees, and you? One connection for you as the teacher might be the connection of honeybee sting. In both 2-year-old classrooms that I talked about at the beginning of the presentation, those teachers were getting honeybee stings. The first sting comes from a misunderstanding that many early childhood educators have about children and learning. The majority of teachers mistakenly think that knowledge is equivalent to the queen bee. It isn't. Knowledge isn't all important. These types of teachers are industrious, just like the honeybees. They work hard to teach children what they think is important to know. For example, group time with these teachers means singing the alphabet in both English and Spanish, naming shapes, counting to 10. They mistakenly believe that verbal echoing or repetition leads to understanding. Rote is not understanding. It's merely a reflection of a good memory. The second sting that teachers get is the frustration of children's repetitive behaviors. They're annoying. You have to pick up those sippy cups. You have to pick up the materials that are all over the floor. Teachers are just not understanding. And the final and most important sting is that children are getting stung. Because patterns of play are innate, and young children want to move and attach and detach and fill and spill and hide and reveal, just like Henry, some children are being quashed, contained, squelched from what they need to do most. That's move and play, move and play, move and play, repeat, repeat, repeat. The honeycomb hypothesis encourages to take the sting out of children's lives in two ways. First, understand why children are doing repetitive behaviors, those patterns of play. And second, know the difference between knowledge and understanding. Always try to promote understanding. The honeycomb hypothesis uses it as an analogy to help us understand how young children acquire understandings. There are similarities in how the honeybees forage for pollen compared to how a small child forages or collects information about his world. Both the child and honeybee are gathering. One is gathering pollen. The other, the child, is flying about their environment, gathering information. Both the honeybee and the child are building honeycombs. One is filled with honey. The other is filled with schemas or concepts, which have been learned through the patterns of play. The honeybee's comb represents the child's brain. Each cell of the honeycomb is representative of a schema or concept or mental model. It's sometimes called mental model. And it's the foundation for child's cognitive development. Honeybees store nectar and pollen in the honeycomb. Children store bits and pieces of information in the honeycomb brain. When the honeybee returns to the honeycomb, it hands off the collected pollen to a worker bee. It is the job of the worker bee to be the gatekeeper of the honeycomb and to accept the collected pollen, make decisions about where to place the forage material, i.e., do we build a new cell? Do we add to an existing cell? Do we give it to the queen? And also to make connections between the chambers. Children do the same as honeybees, with bits and pieces of information collected through those patterns of play. Children bring those bits and pieces of information to their honeycomb brain. Decisions are made. Does the child build a new cell? Does the child add to an existing cell or make modifications to an existing cell? Piaget called these processes accommodation and assimilation. So while honeybees make honey, children construct schemas. How they construct schemas is, for example, if a teacher brings into the classroom an orange ball and rolls it back and forth to the child and says, ball, the child gets the idea of this ball, or does he? Maybe he gets the idea about round. Maybe he gets the idea about orange. We don't know. We don't know what the child does with these bits and pieces of information. A teacher brings in the next day an orange pumpkin. What does the child do with this orange pumpkin? Does he put it into the existing cell? Does he, of the orange ball, does he make a new cell? Does he change the existing cell? What does he do with this new piece of information of the pumpkin? The next day, the teacher brings in an orange. Now what happens? The following day, the teacher brings in a kumquat. So this is where the honeybee hypothesis falls apart a little bit. Why? Because we can see the physical evidence of a honeycomb. We can see the honeycomb's individual cells. We can see how they're filled up with honey. We can see how big the honeycomb is. We cannot see, however, inside a child's brain, unless we're a neurologist and conduct brain scans. Nonetheless, This is where it gets really interesting. First, we must understand that patterns of play are observable behaviors. They are what we can see, what we can watch. But the thing that we cannot see is what they are doing with this information that they are collecting with their patterns of play. We cannot observe schemas. We do not know or even pretend to know what children do with bits and pieces of information that they have gathered in their patterns of play. Therefore, patterns of play are visible or external, and schemas or mental models are internal and invisible. Part of the reason why honeybees are so important as pollinators is they actively seek out flowers with pollen, unlike pollinators like bats and hummingbirds, which I learned in my research are primarily interested in nectar. So this is where the honeybee hypothesis goes off rail a little bit again. Unlike the honeybee's favoritism towards pollen, children are attracted to pollen, nectar, and more. Much more. Research has shown that our brains are wired to be more highly engaged with novel objects or experiences, and that novelty is a fundamental behavior found in most organisms with a nervous system. The honeycomb hypothesis believes there is an important connection between novelty and Piaget's theory of accommodation and assimilation. This is where it really gets interesting for me. Piaget theorized that children's motivation for learning is finding balance in those schemas or finding balances in those mental models. When children play with or experience something that they've never experienced before, like that kumquat, their mental models are uncomfortable, they're unsure. Piaget says they're out of balance. As a result of this uncertainty, Piaget calls this disequilibrium. They instinctively find, sorry, my mouse keeps skipping around. They instinctively find a way to try to find equilibrium in their mental processing. So, what's the connection here? What is the connection between the need to move, the need to play, the need for disequilibrium? What is the connection? Several times through this presentation, I've asked what's the connection. Although previously mentioned, connections are important to understanding the honeycomb hypothesis. This final connection is the important thing. The final connection is the novelty is the key to disequilibrium. We need to provide gentle disequilibrium for children. We need to understand that we provide that gentle disequilibrium because it is the motivator for learning, like Piaget said. It is the motivator. It doesn't mean chaos in our classroom. It doesn't mean that at all. It means a gentle disequilibrium. So if we believe that novelty seeking is an inherent characteristic of children, and if we agree that finding equilibrium is a motivator for learning, we can begin to understand how to best support children through our built environments, as well as our offerings of novelty in both indoor and outdoor environments. As you look at this image, could these containers of grass and dirt get dumped upside down? Probably. Will the children pull the grass out of the dirt? Most likely. Will the plastic animals go for a walk with children's imagination and the grass end up somewhere else? Likely. Will the plastic containers get carried to another area? You can almost bet on it, because that's what children do. Just like Sierra, they move, they play, and they make messes. When we come back from the break, we're going to hear about 3 early childhood experts who are on the ground with messes. See you in a few.
So while we take a break, a moment, reflect and think about the honeybees, we're also going to celebrate a door prize. This next door prize is a swag bag from Texas Association for the Education of Young Children at texasaeyc.org. Our contact there, Sarah Lancaster, is a member support staff member, and she's included a copy of the recent issue of Early Years, the Journal of Texas AEYC. All of this is a part of the Week of the Young Child, and it's the 50th anniversary of NAEYC Week of the Young Child. So we're a random generator selected. Jose Medina is registered in this event as an early childhood teacher. So he will be notified to connect with Sarah Lancaster at Texas AEYC to receive that door prize.
So if you just want to get up just for a few seconds, we're doing pretty good on time, but I have a lot more to share with you. I have to share with you some strategies. So get up and get the wiggles out of you or the buzzing out of you for just, let's say, 30 seconds, and we'll continue.
Thanks, Sandra. And time for just one more door prize during this honeybee break. Wasn't that a great line? Sandra says, get the buzz out of you. That's interesting. I'm thinking we're getting the buzz in. We're taking lots of new information. So one more door prize is another $25 gift certificate to the Book Vine for Children. I hope you are keeping track of many different resources for new information and new resources for children. Isabel Baker writes in Young Children, the Journal of NAEYC and other places, and she curates, she selects the best of recent issues. So she's provided these gift certificates to the Book Vine for Children. And our next $25 gift certificate goes to Dr. Melanie Lowenstein, a member of the faculty at Early Childhood Education faculty and reading faculty at Texas A&M University Commerce. So I will contact all of these gift certificate door prize winners, and stay tuned after Dr. Duncan's presentation, after information that Paris and Monica will bring us for posting our post-lecture survey and information how to access your certificate. Then we still have one more door prize coming.
Okay, are we ready, Dr. Thompson?
Enough buzzings, we're ready.
Okay, great. Okay, why can I not move my slide forward? There we go. So I want to talk about real life right now. We've been talking about the honeycomb hypothesis. We've been talking about patterns of play, the need for children to play and to move, and that these patterns of play of turning and stopping and attaching and detaching and hiding and revealing, all of those movements, innate behaviors, are needed for children to learn about the world around them. We know that children need to move and play and move and play and repeat and repeat. We also know that children come with messes, big messes, but we learned before the break that it's important not to quash and squash children's innate urges to move and play. Yet there's still a mess. So what should we do? We now know that children need to practice these patterns of play. Christopher Sickles, top left, Kelsey Shackelford, top right, and our directors at 2 of the 6 Kids Country Day schools in Ohio. Chris Burkholder is the CEO and founder of Kids Country. The majority of images and ideas in this presentation came from the children at Kids Country, so I'm eternally grateful. In this video, Christine, the bottom lady, the blonde lady, has called Chris and Kelsey to find out how the new idea for sensory tables is working out. By the way, this is a real life story. I didn't make this up. At a nearby farm and feed store, they purchased feeding or watering troughs that have been created for animals for feeding and watering them. They transformed the trough into a sensory experience using field corn that they later used to feed the chickens at one of the centers and the squirrels. Listen to find out what happened.
Hi guys, I just wanted to give you a call and check in on our sensory bins. I know we got those, I don't know what you call them even. Are they pig troughs or feeding food bins or water troughs? But how are they working?
Good word. I love mine. What about you, Christopher? How's yours going?
I like it a lot. The kids have really dove into it and done a lot with it. So
Mine were sitting in it at first, and then before we like added anything, but now we've done water, Orbeez, dirt. So my kids absolutely love it. I know we're gonna showcase some of your stuff here soon. That was pretty hilarious. Why don't you tell us about that, Christopher?
So I took it and set it up in the room while the kids were finishing up snack, and then slowly started adding in some corn to see what they would do with it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What'd they do with it?
Oh, well, they dove right in and explored and found out that they can dump things out easily.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How are your teachers during that?
They were a bit stressed. I had to run out of the room for a few minutes when I got it all set up and came back, and there was just a bunch of corn all over the place. So the teachers were ready to leave.
Ooh. That's never fun.
No.
No. But
Toddlers
they
and
survived,
sensory.
right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Toddlers and sensory. That's always
Definitely.
a fun thing, right?
Yes, they all had giant smiles on their faces, so you could tell they were having a good time.
Well, and that's all that matters.
That's right.
Pure joy, right?
Yeah.
Well, how did they how did you get your teachers to then like come back on board?
So we came up with a plan of what we could do to fix the situation, and we actually found a ring to put on the outside of this feeding trough to try and contain the mess.
Oh.
And we found that it did work pretty well. The kids were able to stand within the ring, and if they did dump anything out, it stayed within that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't do we want to show them a little bit of this action that occurred? Give them a visual.
Do it.
Okay, let me share my.
Wow.
Definitely.
Oh,
I love it. That was pure joy. Oh my gosh. That was pure joy on their faces.
Yes.
I get it with the teachers though. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
But all of them were right in there. So that could be one thing that could change when, if someone else wanted to try this out, maybe introduce it to just a few of them at a time while some of them are outside on the patio.
Right. And that's one of the things we always talk about is, you know, kind of divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So maybe divide them in half. Send some of them get to go outside and some of them get to stay in. So that's one of the things. That's a good solution.
Yeah.
Maybe something with less is more. So maybe a little bit less of whatever's in the sensory.
Right.
And something with the corn. So, you know, you've got the corn going in there. What do you do with that corn afterwards? What do you
So-
why do you choose the corn?
We can feed it to the squirrels that are around here. Classrooms actually have squirrel feeders outside the windows, so we can use that to then fill those squirrel feeders.
Okay. Oh, that's great. I know that a couple of our centers have the chickens also, so that
Yeah.
they're able to feed the chickens. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
So that's good. But sometimes if you put a little bit less of the corn in there, that it might offset the mess on the floor. But
Definitely.
but I know you guys came up with another solution with adding a ring.
Yeah.
What did you do? You bought a bigger?
So we found a bigger ring at Tractor Supply, which is where the trough is from. We have a Tractor Supply right around the corner from the building. And we went and found this ring that would fit over top of the trough. So we placed it over that, and then it gave a space for the kids to stand inside while they were exploring the sensory bin, because a lot of what we noticed was they would fill up a spoon or a measuring cup or a bowl, and then they would look over their shoulder, and when they looked over their shoulder, they would then dump whatever they had in their hand outside onto the floor. So then it was contained within that ring.
So it kept it contained in that little area.
Yes.
So then the
that when you were
teachers,
ready to clean it up, then you could just move that ring, sweep up what was there, and then take it to your chickens or your squirrels or whatever you've got.
so smart. That's so
Yeah.
I love
right. And then you could get to it whenever the teacher was ready to get to it.
That's right.
Okay. So a little bit less on the whole stress level for the
Yes.
teacher.
Yes.
Okay. I like that.
Christopher, did you ever think about giving like the kids, like I know my kids over here absolutely love like the little brooms and stuff. So like I didn't know if they ever thought about doing that, of like being little helpers. Well,
That's definitely something that I can let the teachers know. We do have those little broom and dustpans too, and some of the older kids like to use them. So I'm sure the younger ones would like to help clean up too. They all are fascinated when they see that broom come out.
yeah, no, that's so true. I know mine at home, they love to do it. They don't like to clean up my mess. I mean, they do it here, but not at
Yeah.
home. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Well, all too often you see that beautiful sensory, and you know you see it happening at the beginning, and then the next thing you know, it's in the hallway.
Right.
And it's like, uh-oh, this
Yep.
did not work. So
Where do I put this now?
Well, I also
now
think,
what?
though, I
Now
think
what?
like it's maybe speaking, I can only speak for myself, but I just feel like at times too, like it ends up in the hallway and you get so frustrated because it's like, gosh darn it, like let's
Right.
do it. And I find myself having to talk myself off like of being heated and then going in and talking with my teachers and getting an understanding. And that's hard sometimes, I feel like, in our position, because you know we try so hard to bring in the fun and different things for them, but sometimes we get so excited that we don't think about like the people
The mess that can happen.
Well, I there's something that's really, it's kind of a fun term that I'm actually working on a book with Sandra Duncan, and I'm not sure if this is a secret or not. So if it is, don't tell anybody. So, but this is this coolest word, and it's called wabi sabi. So I mean, even saying the word is really cool.
It's super fun.
Wabi sabi.
Yeah.
Wabi sabi. So I think this is really cool when you're thinking about sensory. And what wabi sabi is to embrace the imperfection, embrace the mess. And so if toddler teachers or any teachers are able to think wabi sabi, it's okay. It's kind of like chillax, and realize that it's okay to have the mess. It's okay to have that little bit of imperfection. Then it's kind of like a little bit of a twist and a little bit of a mindset, that it allows you to just relax a little bit and enjoy the moment and enjoy where the kids are at, and just kind of let the joy happen. And so I think sometimes we just have to remind ourselves to say wabi sabi. And I mean, isn't that fun? I mean, we need t-shirts that say, you know, wabi sabi. So that's my new word, is wabi sabi. So
that is really fun. It's true. I think we all get lost in our own negativity sometimes. So it's almost like a positivity type thing as well. Just, we got this. Just move through it, enjoy the moment, live in it, embrace it.
Right. And kind of maybe be like in the toddler's mindset of, wow, all the things that they are learning in that moment of the dumping and the pouring, and getting to do it repeatedly, because that's their life. That's how they're learning, is being able to repeat and doing it over and over again. And what better place to do that than in a sensory bin? So, you know
what, Chris, I think that's a good segue into, let's rewatch this again and kind of see, maybe we have a different look at it the second time around. So let's put that flash up.
So
hi guys.
I just want to say thank you, Christine, Christopher, and Kelsey, for giving this most wonderful perspective of wabi sabi and giving us some ideas about how you can deal with the mess in real life. I'm going to end this presentation with offering 3 strategies for managing the mess. The first strategy is to think big. Big is better, not only because there's no small, uncontrollable pieces, because it's also better for more children to be involved. Here's something big. Take a look at it. You can hear just because you have something big doesn't mean necessarily that the noise level goes down. It means that children are given many ways to experience an object in the classroom. This is a corrugated drain pipe. It's found at Home Depot. It's called high density polyethylene. It's really used for water exchange systems. It comes in many sizes, many diameters. It's pretty expensive. A 20-foot length is about $500, which is very expensive, but you can cut that 20-foot length into many small lengths to accommodate many places, not only in the classrooms, but outside. There's something called a sawzall. I think I'm saying that right, that can be used, it's a saw, that can be used to cut this material, this pipe. And it can be found on Amazon. A wonderful idea. By the way it's being held steady and sturdy is it's attached to the wall. If you can attach things to the wall, you might consider putting the drainage pipe on its side, on its belly. This is another big idea. It's called camouflage netting. This particular netting, if you watch what's happening on the right, it's inexpensive. It comes in 6 foot diameters, and it's about $9. So it's very inexpensive. It's lightweight. It has holes in it, and you can find it on Amazon. It's a wonderful material for children to use. Here's another idea. Logs are free, and they're a perfect way for thinking big. If you're worried about bugs, before bringing the log into the classroom, disinfect it with a strong mixture of bleach water and let the log completely dry in the warm sun. If you're worried about the rough edges like you see in the foreground, sand them with an electric sander. Logs are perfect because they're free and they're big. Another way to think big is to include a large plexiglass mirror for a wonderful experience of practicing patterns of play. Place a variety of essentially not small objects, but objects near the mirror, such like metal balls or that hoop that you see in the right-hand picture, embroidery hoops, chrome bells, LED lights and strings. These types of reflective pieces present children with new visual depth and dimension. Large unbreakable mirrors make a perfect palette for all age groups. They make a perfect palette for practicing the patterns of play. As you can see on the left, just a wee infant. Large unbreakable mirrors, just put them on the ground, or put them on the tabletop, and let the children explore and practice patterns of play. The next idea is to think simple. There's no need to be fancy or spend a lot of money like that $500 pipe. Your kitchen or center's kitchen can be a warehouse of novel objects. As you watch the video on the next slide, see if you can pick up some of those patterns of play that we've talked about. And remember, they don't have to be exactly what was outlined in this presentation. Just remember, a pattern of play is a repetitive behavior. Maybe you want to write down the patterns of behavior or patterns of play in your chat box. So there's no need to be fancy. LED rope lights are safe for children. They're safe for handling. They don't get hot, and they're indestructible. LED lights can be purchased at a home improvement store or online. Be sure to purchase fire-rated LED lights, and for additional safety, tuck the plug behind a shelving unit or under a shelving unit. LED rope lights are a simple way to promote practices of play. Think contained affordances. The secret to containing messes is to contain them. There's something called the affordance theory by J.J. Gibson. And J.J. Gibson says an affordance is an action possibility formed by the relationship between an agent, the child, and the environment. So if you think about as an adult, a door handle, what is the affordance? Turn it, open up the door, right? So affordances is any action possibility that's formed by the relationship between the object and the person. Start thinking about walls as spaces for engaging patterns of play. Vertical learning environments offer patterns of play for much more. For example, this vertical learning space encourages proprioception, midline body crossing, and spatial awareness. For more information on the benefits of vertical learning environments, go to the, I don't understand why my cursor keeps doing this. Go to the website below the image and you will can read an article that Chris Burkholder and Melissa, I've forgotten her last name right now, Melissa Hennigan and I authored. You can just go to Community Playthings, click on resources in Community Playthings website, and then just look up my name or vertical learning spaces. This vertical learning space is nothing more than a frame with a carpet swatch inside the frame. It's mounted on the wall and it has those old-fashioned plastic curlers that the child, the infant, can attach and detach, attach and detach. And they don't get tired of doing this. And it's contained because all you have are those few curlers out, and they also attach to the rug, the carpet sample. So a great vertical learning space where it's definitely the mess is contained. Here's another way to contain the mess is hang PVC pipes on the wall with those metal clamps and offer baskets of balls. You notice different color balls, different color baskets. And it sends this message of affordance to a child. What does the child want to do? Pick up that ball and try to find a hole. Remember Tom Bedard's axioms of sensory motor play? Children, if there's a hole, children will find something to put in it. So they can also practice the patterns of play of hiding and revealing. This vertical learning space offers child a chance to practice in attaching and detaching. It's nothing more than metal cookie sheets attached to the wall with the pieces of a puzzle that have the magnetic metal tape on the back of them. And so the child attaches, detaches, attaches, detaches. You notice that it's very contained. The pieces automatically attached to the magnetic board. If you're not allowed to screw into the wall, consider heavy duty double stick Velcro. The third idea is think less is more. Remember the story I told you at the beginning of the presentation? It was the story that started the wheels turning about the honeycomb hypothesis. The story was about natural objects being strewn all over the classroom floor and the teacher ready to call it a day. Remember the story that Kelsey and Christopher and Christine told you about corn all over the classroom, even out into the hallway? Well,
So I went to my
gosh, that's frustrating. It keeps advancing and I don't tell it to. Well, the last strategy to think about is less is more. Let's listen to Angela, who is a 2-year-old teacher at Moravian Preschool. And let's hear what she talks about with less is more. Here we go.
So I went to my director and talked to her about that. I didn't feel like we had enough toys, or we didn't have the right toys in our classroom to play with. And really, when we looked at things, we had too many toys. We had too many things for them to play with. And I really wasn't, I didn't buy into the idea at first. I felt like they weren't going to have anything to do, and it was going to be worse than it was before. And actually, once we pulled everything out, we put less in. It's been amazing, and I'm completely sold on the idea of fewer things, that we change out more often, and it's been great.
So the whole idea is less is more. Keep it simple and think big. Finally, above all, remember Chris's words, wabi sabi. Embrace the imperfection of patterns of play. Embrace the imperfection of the mess of play. Embrace it, and children will thrive and grow and learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan. Dr. Zlata, did we have any questions that we wanted to ask?
Hi, how are you? There's a couple of things that came up that were asked that I saw were, really more of comments than questions. But I wanted to share them with Dr. Duncan, see if she wanted to elaborate. One of the things they said that they appreciate this problem-solving ability that teachers have and how they didn't limit the experience that was valuable to the children. And then more saying about how classroom jobs are a wonderful way to expand vocabulary. So they were just more comments necessarily than questions, but just want to let Dr. Duncan know that so many people were just thankful for the practical ideas and practical things that were shared that they can take back with them. And so if anyone, after they have had time to process all this wonderful information, if anyone comes up with some questions or anything that they need, please feel free to email Dr. Josh Thompson, and we will get your questions answered. But more just of very much positive comments back and positive gratitude for all of the practical ideas. So nothing that stands out at this moment, except a great big thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Today was great. And then let's see if I can click on. It is time for a door prize, our last door prize for the day. Dr. Thompson, take it away.
Hora de un premio para todos. Pongan atención.
Gracias. Yes, we are so thankful for Sandra. Duncan's thankful for so many participants. We have received a number of comments in our chat box, including a lot of people identifying their location. I see people from California, from the United Kingdom, from Ohio and Tennessee and Pennsylvania, from LA, from Western Australia. If you haven't posted a greeting, a location in our chat box, please take time to do so now. We just want to kind of get a breath of how many people and how big this chaos, this toddler environment, this wabi-sabi is going on all around our world. Look at that, Garland, Allen, many right here from the Metroplex, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, North Texas, Northeast Texas. We are at Texas A&M University Commerce. This last package of swag from Texas A&M University Commerce goes to Jamie Walker Mayer. Thank you for participating.
Yay, congratulations, Jamie. Again, we just want to say thank you for coming. Before you leave today, though, Dr. Thompson will put a link in the chat for you to fill out our post survey, our post lecture survey. And so once you fill that out, you will get a link to the downloadable certificate, but be honest, give us your honest opinions about how today went. But yeah, once your survey is done, then you can download your certificate and give yourself a pat on the back.
Gracias a todos por acompañarnos hoy. Queremos darles muchísimas gracias. En serio, esto ha sido una experiencia muy, muy linda. Hemos aprendido muchísimo. Y antes de que te vayas, por favor, ayúdanos completando la encuesta que te vamos a dar. Al final de esta lección, Dr. Thompson te va a enviar un enlace para que puedas completar la encuesta. Por favor, sé honesto con nosotros. Déjanos saber qué es lo que piensas de la reunión, qué aprendiste, y cómo podemos ayudarte para que las próximas reuniones sean mejores cada vez. También queremos decirte que pongas atención. Al final de tu encuesta vas a tener un enlace para que puedas descargar tu certificado. Así que descarga el certificado y luego celebra tu crecimiento. Gracias por estar con nosotros hoy.
And then we want to give a special shout out to everyone that helped put this together today. We're so thankful for them, and without them, today would not be possible.
Queremos dar un agradecimiento especial para todas las personas que formaron parte del equipo del día de hoy. Muchísimas gracias a todos los que participaron con nosotros, no solo en el no solo planeando, haciendo el planeamiento de todo esto, sino tomando el tiempo de estar con nosotros y compartiendo y aprendiendo.
So that is everything. Make sure that you follow the link to the post survey and download your certificate. But again, we're so thankful for all of you to attend today, and we're so thankful to Dr. Duncan.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I've extended an invitation to everyone to unmute. I think there's 54 of us still.
Thank you all.
You can all come off mute and say, thank you, Dr. Duncan. We can have some chaos. We're going to have a lot of
Dr. Duncan.
Turn on your cameras too to wave at her.
Sabi.
Dr. Duncan, hey, everybody.
The book is out in November, everyone. The book is out in November.
Yes, yes, here we go. This is
Thank you, everyone, for coming in.
great.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
What chaos we create. Hi, Dr. Kristen. Thank you for your video from the feeding trough. Christine Burkholder, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.